I'd handed over the keys to my $80,000 wedding rental BMW to my maid of honor, my best friend since childhood. 6 hours later, I stood there watching in my $4,000 wedding dress as she fled my wedding reception with my fiancé in the passenger seat. I could barely breathe as my entire world collapsed around me, but the rage that followed their betrayal would consume everything in its path. Here's how I made sure they lost everything that mattered to them, while I clawed my way back from the brink of total destruction. 3 months before my wedding day, I thought I had it all figured out. I'm Wilma, age 29, and I was living the dream. Carl, my fiancé, was a successful investment banker, and we had a gorgeous apartment in downtown Portland. I'd spent ages organizing, invested a ton of money, and put in crazy effort planning my wedding. It was going to be the event of the year, 180 guests at the Fairmont Hotel, with a reception that cost more than most people's cars. But the person I was most excited to share it with was Danielle, my best friend since we were 7 years old. Danielle had been there through everything: my parents' divorce, my college heartbreak, my career struggles. When Carl proposed, she was the first person I called, screaming with joy at 11 p.m. "Wilma, oh my God, this is it! You're getting everything you've ever wanted!" She'd squealed into the phone. Danielle was my maid of honor, obviously. She helped me pick out my dress, plan the bachelorette party, and even moved in with us for the last month to help with wedding preparations. Carl didn't mind. He'd always gotten along great with Danielle. Too great, as it turned out. Looking back, I should have noticed the glances between them. The way she'd touch his arm when she laughed. How she always seemed to be around when he came home from work. But I trusted them both completely. I had no idea my perfect life was about to implode in the most humiliating way possible. The morning of my wedding, I woke up in the bridal suite at the Fairmont, surrounded by my bridesmaids. Danielle was already up, bringing me coffee and toast, fussing over every detail like the perfect maid of honor. "Today's the day, babe," she said, her smile bright and warm. "You're going to be the most beautiful bride ever." I believed every word. The morning flew by in a blur of hair, makeup, and champagne toasts. Danielle was right there beside me, zipping up my $4,000 Vera Wang dress, arranging my veil, telling me how happy she was for me. At 3 p.m., 30 minutes before the ceremony, she got a phone call. "Oh no," she said as her face turned pale suddenly. "Wilma, I have a family emergency. My mom's in the hospital. They think it might be a heart attack. I have to go right now." My heart sank. "Danielle, no, can't someone else?" "I'm so sorry, honey. You know I wouldn't miss this for anything, but it's my mom." Tears welled in her eyes. "I'll try to make it back for the reception, I promise." What could I say? I hugged her tight, told her I understood, and watched my best friend rush out of the bridal suite with her overnight bag. I thought I was being understanding. I thought I was being a good friend. I had no idea I'd just been played by a master manipulator. The ceremony went off without a hitch, despite Danielle's absence. Carl looked handsome in his tuxedo. I felt like a princess, and our families were over the moon. But something felt off. Carl seemed distracted during our vows, checking his phone when he thought I wasn't looking. After the ceremony, during cocktail hour, Carl pulled me aside. "Wilma, we need to talk." His voice was flat, emotionless. "What's wrong?" I asked, still floating on wedding bliss. He handed me an envelope. "I can't do this." Inside were divorce papers, already filled out, with my name printed at the top. The blood drained from my face, my legs nearly gave out. What is this?" I whispered, my voice cracking. "Danielle and we've been seeing each other for 6 months. We're in love, Wilma. Real love. Not this." He gestured vaguely at my dress, at the beautiful reception room filled with our families and friends. The words hit me like a physical blow. I gripped the wall to keep from falling. "You planned this," I said, my voice hollow with disbelief. "You both planned this. We didn't want to hurt you, but we couldn't keep living a lie." Hurt me? They didn't want to hurt me? The hypocrisy made my blood boil. I looked around at our 180 wedding guests chatting and laughing, completely unaware that my entire life had just exploded. My parents were beaming with pride. His parents were showing off to their country club friends. The photographers were setting up for our first dance. What about all these people? What about— My voice was rising, panic creeping in. "We'll figure it out," Carl said coldly. "Danielle's waiting in the car. We're going to drive up to Seattle tonight, give you some space to process this." That's when the shock crystallized into something darker. pure, white-hot fury. They were going to humiliate me in front of everyone I cared about, destroy my wedding day, and then leave so I could process this? "You're leaving? Now?" The word came out like a snarl. "It's better this way, Wilma. Clean break." I watched him walk away, still in his tuxedo, still wearing the boutonniere I'd pinned to his lapel 4 hours earlier. Through the window, I could see Danielle in the driver's seat of the rental car, the luxury sedan she'd insisted on booking in her name as my maid of honor to handle all the wedding day transportation details. They drove away together, leaving me standing in my wedding dress, holding divorce papers, with 180 people expecting a celebration. In that moment, something inside me died, and something much darker was born. I could have made a scene. I could have screamed, thrown things, called them both every name in the book in front of everyone. God knows I wanted to. Instead, I took a shuddering breath, walked back into the reception, and lied through my teeth. "Everyone, I'm so sorry, but Carl had a family emergency and had to leave suddenly. We're going to postpone the reception, but please stay and enjoy the food and drinks. It's already paid for." I just spent $30,000 so my guests could have a good time while my heart shattered into a million pieces. The next few days were a blur of tears and sleepless nights. I couldn't eat, couldn't focus, couldn't stop replaying every moment of the last 6 months, searching for signs I'd missed. Had they been laughing at me behind my back? How many lies had Danielle told me while she was stealing my life? How could she do this to me? Did she secretly hate me? For the next 3 days, I tried to do the right thing. I called Danielle with trembling fingers, thinking maybe if we talked, if I could understand what happened, we could work it out somehow. "Wilma, I'm so sorry," she sobbed into the phone. "I never meant for this to happen. You have to believe me." "Then come back," I begged, hating how desperate I sounded. "We can fix this. Carl is confused. He's scared of commitment." "No, Wilma, it's real. What we have is real." She was crying, but she wasn't coming back. The betrayal cut deeper, knowing she could fake tears while twisting the knife. I tried calling Carl. Same story. "I'm sorry, Wilma. I never wanted to hurt you, but I can't marry you when I'm in love with someone else." Someone else? He meant my best friend since childhood. Someone supposed to have my back, not stab me in the back. I even went to couples therapy by myself, thinking maybe if I could understand what went wrong, I could save my relationship. I was grasping at straws. It was as if my brain just couldn't accept the fact that the 2 people I loved the most had destroyed me without a second thought. Dr. Martin was kind but direct. "Wilma, you can't fix betrayal with understanding. They made their choice." But I wasn't ready to accept that. For 2 weeks, I kept trying. I sent thoughtful texts, offered to meet for coffee, suggested we all sit down together like adults and work this out. Each ignored message felt like another slap in the face. Danielle's responses got shorter and colder. Carl stopped responding altogether. Then, 2 weeks after my wedding day, I saw the Instagram post. Danielle and Carl, on a beach in Maui, with the caption, "Sometimes the best things come from the most unexpected places. #new beginnings, #true love, #blessed." They were on their honeymoon, the honeymoon I had planned and paid for. That's when something snapped inside me. I suddenly just stopped feeling like a sad, powerless victim. Instead, I was filled with a cold, calculating rage that scared me with its intensity. I was going to have my revenge my way. Nothing illegal, but I was going to seek every avenue to visit the maximum possible amount of damage and humiliation on the 2 of them. I'm not proud of what I did next, but at the time, I wasn't thinking about any sense of dignity. I'd already lost that when I was dumped at the altar, so I hired a private investigator to dig into their lives. "I just need to know the truth," I told Janet Mitchell, a no-nonsense woman in her 50s who specialized in exposing cheating spouses. "How long has this been going on? I need to understand." I needed ammunition. What Janet found changed everything. Danielle hadn't just stolen my fiancé. She'd been systematically planning to steal my entire life for almost a year. The affair had started 11 months ago, right after Carl got his promotion at the investment firm. Danielle had been feeding him lies about me, telling him I was only with him for his money, that I'd been talking about him behind his back, that I was already planning to take half his assets in a divorce. What a monster. The idea of her doing that while cozying up to me, learning all my secrets, fears, and anxieties made my skin crawl. Every kind gesture, every late-night conversation, every "I'm so happy for you" had been a lie. Danielle worked as a marketing coordinator for a high-end wellness company called Pure Essence. She made decent money, but nothing compared to Carl's six-figure salary. Janet also found out that she'd been stealing money from her company for 2 years, skimming money from client accounts to fund her expensive lifestyle. The designer clothes, the expensive dinners, the weekend trips to wine country. She'd stolen over $85,000. And unfortunately for her, I had the proof. Janet was brilliant. She'd obtained bank records, email trails, and even security footage of Danielle accessing client accounts after hours. It was all there, fully documented and undeniable. But the real shocker for me was what she'd done with my wedding. Remember how helpful Danielle had been with the planning? How she'd volunteered to handle so many details? She'd been skimming money from our vendors, telling them I'd authorized budget adjustments and pocketing the difference. The flowers I'd paid $3,000 for? She'd downgraded them to $1,800 arrangements and kept the $1,200. The photographer, the cake, the transportation. She'd been running the same scam across the board. She'd stolen over $8,000 from my own wedding to fund her affair with my fiancé. What kind of person had I befriended? A few months ago, I would have sworn on my life she could never have done these things, but I had the evidence right there in my hands. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, that for a moment I couldn't breathe. Then the rage took over, and I was focused again. I finally had the power to end this, and I wasn't going to let her do it to anyone else. I didn't just want to expose Danielle. I wanted to make an example of her, to ensure she paid consequences that fit her crimes. She'd stolen my fiancé, my best friend, my wedding day, and my money as well. She didn't care how much pain she caused. She deserved to lose everything she'd gained and much more. My plan had 3 phases. Phase 1, the company. I contacted Danielle's boss, Victoria Winters, the CEO of Pure Essence. I didn't mention the personal stuff. I simply provided evidence of the embezzlement professionally and anonymously. I thought you should know about potential financial irregularities in your marketing department, I wrote, attaching copies of the bank records and access logs. Phase 2, her social circle. Danielle had always been obsessed with her image, her social media presence. She'd built a reputation as the successful single woman living her best life. On Instagram, she had 12,000 followers and constantly posted about her fabulous lifestyle. So I created a detailed timeline of the affair, including photos of Danielle and Carl together that Janet had taken, screenshots of text messages between them. Carl had left his phone unlocked at our apartment, and solid evidence of the wedding vendor fraud. But I didn't post it myself, obviously. Phase 3, the legal system. The embezzlement was a felony. The wedding vendor fraud was theft. I gathered all the evidence and prepared to file charges. But first, I wanted Danielle to know what was coming, to experience the anxiety of impending doom without knowing exactly when it would strike. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than devastating heartbreak. I felt empowered. Several weeks after the wedding that never was, Danielle called me. "Wilma, we need to talk. Can you meet me at Cafe Luna tomorrow?" She sounded panicked. Good, I knew why. Victoria Winters had launched an internal investigation at Pure Essence. Danielle's Instagram followers had started asking questions about her sudden expensive lifestyle. The walls were closing in. I met her at our old favorite coffee shop, the place where we'd spent countless hours as teenagers talking about our dreams and futures. The irony wasn't lost on me. Danielle looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her designer outfit wrinkled, her eyes red and swollen. "Wilma, please," she said before I'd even sat down. "I know you're angry, but you have to stop this." "Stop what?" I asked calmly, ordering my usual lavender latte. I was surprised by how steady my voice sounded when inside I was screaming. "The investigation at my work, the anonymous tips. I know it's you." I smiled coldly. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Please," she whispered. "I'll lose my job. I could go to prison." "Maybe you should have thought about that before you decided to steal from your company. And from me." The bitterness in my voice was unmistakable. Her face went white. "You know?" "I know everything, Danielle. The vendor fraud at my wedding, the money you've been skimming from Pure Essence, the lies you told Carl about me, all of it. Each word felt like a small victory. She started crying then. Ugly, desperate sobs. I never meant for it to go this far. It spiraled out of control. You stole $8,000 from my wedding to fund your affair with my fiancé, I said, my voice steady despite the fury burning in my chest. That sounds pretty intentional to me. What do you want? She asked. I'll do anything. I'll pay you back. I want you to understand what you took from me, I said, leaning forward. You didn't just steal Carl, you stole my trust, my security, my belief that the people I love won't betray me. You stole my wedding day, the day I dreamed about since I was a little girl. There's nothing you could ever do to pay that back, Danielle. Not in a million years. She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. The Wilma I knew would forgive me, she whispered. The Wilma you knew doesn't exist anymore, I replied. You killed her on June 15th. I stood up, leaving my untouched latte on the table. The police will probably want to talk to you soon. Maybe you should look for a good lawyer. Thanks for the latte. As I walked away, I heard her calling my name, begging me to come back. I didn't turn around. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. The dominoes fell faster than I'd expected. Danielle was fired from Pure Essence within a week. Victoria Winters didn't just terminate her, she pressed charges for embezzlement and fraud. The local news picked up the story. Marketing executive charged with stealing $85,000 from wellness company. Danielle's social media presence imploded overnight. Someone had leaked the timeline of her affair and the wedding vendor fraud to her Instagram followers. The comments section became a brutal takedown of her character, her choices, and her fake lifestyle. She deleted all her accounts within 48 hours. Watching her perfect image crumble felt better than I'd expected, but it still didn't fill the hole she'd left in my life. Carl called me 3 days after Danielle's arrest. Wilma, I had no idea, he stammered. About the money, about what she was doing, the lies. If I'd known... You'd what? I asked, the old anger flaring. You'd have still cheated on me, but felt bad about it? I made a mistake, he said. Danielle's not who I thought she was. We could try again, couldn't we? Go to counseling, take it slow. I laughed bitterly. Carl, you left me at our wedding, in front of 180 people. You handed me divorce papers and drove away with my best friend in my wedding car. You don't get to come back now that she's inconvenient. Wilma, please. I hung up. He called 17 more times. I never answered. Some betrayals don't deserve second chances. The real twist came a month later, when Danielle's lawyer contacted me. Danielle was facing 5 felony charges and up to 15 years in prison. She was willing to plead guilty and pay full restitution if I would ask the prosecutor to recommend a reduced sentence. My client deeply regrets her actions and would like to make amends, her lawyer explained. I thought about it for a really long time, exactly 30 seconds. Tell your client that some things can't be fixed with money or apologies, I said. She'll have plenty of time to think about that. Danielle was sentenced to 4 years in prison and ordered to pay $93,000 in restitution. She lost her job, her reputation, her freedom, and the man she'd destroyed my life to steal. Carl? He tried dating a few other women, but word had gotten around about what he'd done. Turns out, abandoning your bride at your own wedding isn't a great selling point in the dating market. Last I heard, he was single and miserable. 2 months after Danielle was sentenced, the letters started coming. The first one arrived on a Tuesday. Cheap prison paper, her scrawl unmistakable. I tossed it straight into the trash, unopened. Some conversations are over before they start, but they kept coming. Week after week. By the 5th, curiosity cracked my resolve. I opened it with trembling hands. I never meant for any of this to happen. You have to believe me. Love always, Danielle. Love always? Really? After everything she'd done, she had the audacity to sign it Love Always. I read it twice, feeling my blood pressure rise with each word. The complete lack of accountability, the victim mentality, the manipulation. It was classic Danielle. Even from prison, she was still trying to rewrite history. That letter went straight into the fireplace. I fed the letter to the fire, watched her words blacken, curl, disappear. Some apologies deserved to burn. More followed, more gaslighting. More martyrdom, more of the same. Then came letter number 7. You're ignoring me? After everything we've been through? Maybe if you'd been a better friend, a better fiancé. Carl told me how suffocating you were. Now there was the Danielle I remembered. Narcissistic, petty, blame shifting to the end. I didn't even bother getting angry this time. I just smiled as the flames ate her words. She wanted closure. I gave her ashes. I never wrote back. Not once. Then, 6 months after Danielle was sentenced, I got a phone call that caught me completely off guard. Wilma Henderson? This is Robert Armando. We had econ together in college. I remembered him vaguely. Carl's old frat buddy. I've got an incredible opportunity. Carl would be perfect. Are you two still? We're not, I said. Oh, sorry to hear that. Any idea how I can reach him? This job's in Dubai. Base salary over $500,000, full benefits. A fresh start. This offer is seriously life-changing, and Carl's exactly the kind of person we need. I can easily swing it for him before we advertise it, if he wants it. I paused just long enough to savor it while thinking fast. Wow, that sounds amazing. But Carl? He was just promoted. Senior VP at Sterling and Associates. Dream job, really. He's obsessed. Of course, not a single word of that was true. Seriously, that's incredible. Got a number for him? Sure, I said and gave him a number, close but not Carl's. After we hung up, I stared at the phone. I'd just torpedoed what could have been Carl's dream job, his redemption. Carl would never know about the call, the huge missed opportunity for the success he'd craved, the offer that vanished, the life he almost had, but didn't deserve. Hopefully, it would go to a person of better moral character. And I hadn't needed to lift a finger. That was somehow deeply satisfying, and I felt absolutely no guilt whatsoever. In fact, I'd done Robert a favor, my good deed for the day. Sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't fire, it's silence. 6 months after the wedding, that wasn't. I was living in a sleek downtown loft, thriving in my new role as marketing director. Danielle's old job, actually. Victoria said she needed someone with unshakable integrity. I didn't even try to hide my grin. I met David in a pottery class I'd joined on a whim. He was kind, open, and completely allergic to lies. When I told him what Carl and Danielle had done, he blinked once and said, "Their loss, my jackpot." I liked him instantly. The healing wasn't perfect. Some mornings I woke up angry, others just hollow. But piece by piece I was rebuilding. And this time, stronger. Then came the cherry on top. 3 weeks after Danielle's sentencing, I was clearing out the guest room, the one she'd claimed while helping plan my wedding. Stuffing stray clutter into boxes, I found a beaded clutch she'd left behind. Inside, lip balm, a mint, a USB labeled work backup. It held emails, financial reports, receipts, more proof she'd been stealing. I turned it over to the prosecutor. Her sentence got extended by a full year. People sometimes ask if I regret how far I went, if I feel guilty for ruining her life. But I didn't ruin anything. She chose the lies. She chose the affair. She chose betrayal. I just refused to let her get away with it. Today, I'm engaged again. No drama, no secrets, no shady best friends lurking in the wings. Just two people who choose each other every day. Danielle still writes. I still burn her letters. Unopened. Carl? He never heard about the Dubai job offer that could have changed his life. Still stuck in his middle-tier misery, still bitter, still alone. I do hope he runs into Robert one day in the far future. And you know what? That thought keeps me warm on cold nights, because sometimes karma doesn't knock. It kicks the damn door in. If watching Danielle and Carl get everything they deserved made your day, smash that like button and tell me in the comments, was the revenge too much or perfectly brutal? And if you love stories where justice isn't just served, it's plated cold and extra spicy, subscribe now. The next story? You won't believe what happens. It's already waiting for you, right here on screen.